Jack Harper straightened his tie and took a deep breath. The massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber loomed before him, their ancient carvings depicting the founding of the interstellar government 5,000 years ago. Humans had only been part of this body for 3 centuries, and today Harper would announce they were leaving. "Ready, sir?" asked his aide, Natalie Reeves. Harper nodded. "As ready as anyone can be to change history." The doors swung open. Harper walked down the long center aisle, his footsteps echoing in the vast chamber. 200 alien representatives from across the galaxy watched him approach. Some whispered to each other. Others tapped notes into their devices. Most looked bored. High Counselor Zex Terrell of the Phyrexian Empire sat in the center chair, his blue scales shimmering under the chamber lights. His 6 eyes narrowed as Harper reached the speaking platform. "The human representative has the floor," announced the chamber eye. Harper placed his hands on the smooth surface of the podium and looked up at the curved rows of seats filled with the most powerful beings in the galaxy. "Esteemed members of the Galactic Council," he began, his voice steady. "For 300 years, humanity has been part of this body. We have traded with you, fought alongside you, shared our culture with you, and learned from you." He paused, looking at individual faces in the crowd. "We have also been cheated by you, looked down upon by you, and treated as lesser beings despite all evidence to the contrary." Murmurs spread through the chamber. Zex Terrell leaned forward, his mouth twitching in annoyance. "Human, if you have complaints about trade deals, there are proper channels. This is not about specific grievances, High Counselor," Harper cut in. "This is about a pattern that has become undeniable, a systematic disregard for human contributions and potential." He touched a control on the podium, and holograms appeared around the chamber. They showed statistics about rejected human patents, denied colony applications, and trade restrictions placed uniquely on Earth goods. "Every technology we develop is regulated more heavily than similar advances from other worlds. Every colony we establish faces twice the oversight. Every trade deal we negotiate starts with terms no other world would accept." The Phyrexian waved a clawed hand dismissively. "All young species face scrutiny as they join galactic society. It is for your own good, and the good of all." Harper smiled thinly. "We have compiled these records spanning 3 centuries. The scrutiny applied to humanity has exceeded standard protocols by an average of 342% compared to other species at similar development stages." An insectoid representative buzzed angrily. "Is this a complaint or a threat, human?" "Neither," Harper replied calmly. "It is a goodbye." Now the chamber grew completely silent. "As of today, Earth and all human colonies are withdrawing from the Galactic Council. We are severing all diplomatic ties and ending all trade agreements." Laughter erupted from several sections of the chamber. Zex Terrell's mouth stretched into what passed for a Phyrexian smile. "You cannot be serious, Ambassador Harper. Your economy would collapse within months without council markets." Harper didn't flinch. "We have been preparing for this day for decades. We will manage." The laughter grew louder. A reptilian delegate pounded his fist on his desk in amusement. Only one delegate remained silent and thoughtful. Ambassador Lyra of the Alari, one of the oldest species in the galaxy, watched Harper with ancient eyes that had seen civilizations rise and fall. "You may find this amusing now," Harper continued once the laughter died down. "But I wonder how many of you understand how deeply human innovation has integrated into your daily lives." He shut down the holograms with a quick gesture. "Humanity is walking away. Not in anger, not in haste, but with clear purpose and calm resolve. We wish you well." Harper stepped away from the podium as fresh laughter and mockery followed him down the aisle. Insults in a dozen languages echoed off the chamber walls. He never looked back, his pace steady and unhurried. As the doors closed behind him, Natalie fell into step beside him. "They're not taking it seriously," she said. Harper's expression remained calm. "No, and that's exactly what our analysts predicted. Their arrogance will make what comes next much easier. Only Ambassador Lyra, still seated in the noisy chamber, felt a chill run down her spine. Her people were old enough to recognize the quiet determination she had seen in Harper's eyes. She knew the council had just made a terrible mistake. 6 months had passed since Jack Harper walked out of the Galactic Council chambers. The initial amusement of the council representatives had faded into confusion, then worry. And now, the first hints of panic were beginning to show. In the busy trading hub of Station Nexus, Captain Laura Clark watched as dock workers struggled to repair a malfunctioning navigation system on a Phyrexian cargo ship. The workers had been at it for 3 days with no success. It just stopped working. The Phyrexian ship owner complained, his scales darkening with frustration. One day it calculates jumps perfectly. The next day, nothing but error messages. Laura sipped her coffee and said nothing. She knew why. The human-designed FTL navigation systems used throughout Council space had begun failing, one by one. No one had expected the subtle time delay in the programming, a feature, not a bug, that required regular updates from Earth's central servers, updates that were no longer being sent. You could try contacting William Grant, suggested a helpful Alari merchant. His company designed most of these systems. The Phyrexian hissed. We tried. Earth does not answer our calls. Laura finished her coffee and walked away. Her own ship, thankfully, had been upgraded with the independent navigation system that Earth had quietly distributed to human captains in the years leading up to their departure. Far from Station Nexus, in the gleaming towers of the Council's central medical facility, Dr. Rentak stared at empty supply shelves, where medicines once produced exclusively on Earth had been stored. His patients needed those medications. Without them, suffering would increase tenfold across Council worlds. Send another request to their medical authority, he told his assistant. Offer triple the usual price. His assistant, a young Plorian with violet skin, looked down nervously. I sent 7 messages last week, Doctor. No response. Dr. Rentak's tentacles curled in distress. Then what are we supposed to do? I've heard the Terran colonies are still producing these medications, the assistant said quietly. But they only sell to independent worlds now, not council members. In the Grand Council Hall, an emergency session had been called. Attendance was unusually high. Even representatives who normally sent only junior aides had come in person. High Councilor Zex Terrell's usual confidence seemed diminished as he called the meeting to order. We are facing unexpected challenges with human withdrawal, he admitted reluctantly. Some supply chains have been disrupted. Ambassador Krell of the Jorvian Collective stood up, his massive frame towering over the other representatives. Disrupted? Half our fleet is stranded because navigation systems are failing. Medical facilities across 3 sectors report critical shortages. This is more than a disruption. Murmurs of agreement spread through the chamber. A junior representative from a recently admitted world stood up hesitantly. Perhaps we should consider opening new negotiations with Earth. Maybe apologize for. Apologize? Zex Terrell interrupted, his 6 eyes widening with outrage. For what? Guiding them? Regulating their dangerous innovations? Keeping them from destabilizing established trade systems? The young representative sat down quickly. Ambassador Lyra of the Alari spoke next, her ancient voice cutting through the tension. The humans have surprised us with their preparedness. This suggests their decision was not made hastily, but planned for years. We should consider the implications. They cannot survive alone, Zex Terrell insisted. Their economy will collapse without our markets. They rely on us for rare resources from a dozen worlds. This is merely posturing. They will return when reality sets in. On Earth, in the rebuilt headquarters of Terran Technologies, William Grant reviewed the latest reports. Council requests for technical support had increased 300% this month alone. Still ignoring them? Asked his vice president, Diane Foster. Grant nodded, watching a holographic display showing human trade goods being rerouted to independent systems and frontier worlds. Our new partners are much more appreciative of fair deals, he said, and they don't try to steal our technology while claiming our patents are too simplistic to qualify for protection. Diane smiled. The latest data shows Earth's economy has actually grown by 2% since withdrawal. The Council's economy, meanwhile. Let me guess, Grant said. Not doing so well. Down 7% and falling, she replied. And that's just the beginning. Grant looked out the window at the busy skyline of New Chicago. They never bothered to understand how much they depended on us. That was their mistake. Across council space, the first cracks were beginning to show in what had once seemed an unshakable galactic order. 1 year had passed since Earth severed ties with the Galactic Council. Winter snow fell softly outside the window of Andy Miller's office on New Terra, Earth's largest colony world. As governor of the planet, his desk was covered with reports and requests, but his attention was focused on the woman sitting across from him. "You know who I am," said Susan Miller, no relation to the governor despite sharing a common surname. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were alert. Andy nodded. "Council Intelligence. You've been on New Terra for 3 years, posing as a business consultant." She showed no surprise at being identified. "Then you know why I'm here." "The Council wants information," Andy said. "They're confused because their predictions about our collapse haven't come true." Susan leaned forward. "I've been ordered to assess the real situation on human worlds. My superiors don't believe the official reports they're receiving." Andy smiled and pushed a data pad across his desk. "You can tell them whatever you want, or you can tell them the truth. Here's full access to our economic data, production reports, and development projects." Susan's eyebrows raised in surprise. "You're just giving this to me. It could be used against Earth's interests." "Facts are facts," Andy replied. "We have nothing to hide." Later that day, Susan walked through the busy streets of New Hope City. Markets were full of food. Shops displayed goods of all kinds. Construction crews worked on new buildings. Nothing suggested a society in trouble. She entered a public transport hub and took an elevator to the observation deck. From there, she could see the vast farmlands stretching beyond the city. Automated harvesters moved efficiently through golden fields of wheat. "Beautiful, isn't it?" said a voice beside her. Susan turned to find a farmer named Joe Wilson standing next to her. "Your farms seem to be producing well," she noted. Joe nodded proudly. "Better than ever. Without council export regulations, we've been able to optimize our growing cycles. Food production is up 30%. But you've lost your biggest markets," Susan pointed out. "We found new ones," Joe said simply. "Independent worlds are happy to trade with us directly without council tariffs. Everyone gets a better deal." Susan's gaze drifted upward, where massive construction projects could be seen in orbit. "And those?" "New shipyards," Joe answered. "We're building a different kind of ship now. More efficient, better suited to our needs." That evening, Susan composed her report in her small apartment. She wrote honestly about what she had seen. Humans weren't suffering at all. They were thriving. Their markets had reorganized around internal trade and direct deals with independent worlds. Human innovation had accelerated without council regulations. She hesitated before sending the report, knowing it contradicted what council leadership wanted to hear. But her duty was to the truth, so she pressed send. 2 days later, in the Galactic Council chambers, her report was displayed for all representatives to see. The reaction was immediate and hostile. "Propaganda," shouted one delegate. "She's been compromised," suggested another. High Counselor Zex Terrell silenced the outbursts with a raised hand. "Agent Miller has clearly been missiled by carefully staged demonstrations. No economy could restructure so quickly." Only Ambassador Lyra of the Alari seemed troubled by the dismissals. What if she's correct? What if humans have been preparing for independence for years? That would explain their ready adaptability. Meanwhile, on the human frontier world of Hope's Landing, food shortages had become severe. This small colony had once depended on imports from council worlds before the split. Governor Kelly Baker addressed worried colonists in the town square. "I know things have been difficult," she admitted, "but I just received word. 3 Earth transport ships will arrive tomorrow with emergency supplies." A man shouted from the crowd, "Why didn't we get warning before Earth cut ties? We nearly starved." Kelly nodded in understanding. Earth's leadership had to make a clean break all at once, or the Council would have targeted vulnerable colonies like ours for leverage. But they never forgot us. Help is coming, and soon we'll be self-sufficient. As she spoke, her aide pointed to the sky. Cheers erupted as the silhouettes of Earth ships appeared in the atmosphere, days ahead of schedule. Across Council space, the narrative about human suffering grew increasingly disconnected from reality. But on former Council worlds now facing food shortages of their own, people began to whisper about the prosperity of human colonies and wonder if they had chosen the wrong side. The warning came at dawn. 5 Council warships had entered the Horizon system, home to one of humanity's frontier colonies. Admiral Peter Allen stood on the bridge of the EDS Defender, watching the tactical display with calm eyes. Only 4 human ships protected this colony, and the Council fleet outgunned them 3-1. "Admiral, they're hailing us," reported Communications Officer Samantha Wright. Allen nodded. "Put them through." The screen flickered to show Commander Vex of the Vrexian Empire, his blue scales gleaming under harsh ship lighting. "Human vessels, this is Commander Vex of the Galactic Council Enforcement Fleet. Your presence in this system violates Council security protocols. You will power down your ships and prepare for boarding." Allen raised an eyebrow. "Commander Vex, this is Admiral Allen of Earth Defense. Horizon is a recognized human colony. We withdrew from the Council legally, as you well know. The Council has determined that certain strategic systems, including Horizon, are too important to galactic stability to remain outside Council authority." Vex replied smoothly. "Comply now, or we will take action." The real message was clear. The Council wanted the valuable resource mines on Horizon, and they thought they could intimidate a small frontier world into submission. Allen's expression didn't change. "That would be an act of war, Commander." "Then war it shall be," Vex snapped. "You have 1 hour to surrender control of this system, or we will begin orbital bombardment of your colony." The transmission ended. Officer Wright looked worried. "Sir, their ships are moving into attack formation." Allen checked the time. "Begin evacuation of the surface settlements immediately, and open a channel to all ships in the Council fleet." "All ships, sir, not just the command vessel." "All of them," Allen confirmed. 10 minutes later, Allen's face appeared on the screens of every crew member on every Council ship. "This is Admiral Peter Allen of Earth Defense. I'm speaking directly to the crew members of all Council vessels. Commander Vex has threatened to bombard a civilian colony. Before you follow that order, there's something you should know." He paused, letting his words sink in. "For decades, human engineers and technicians have served on Council ships. We designed many of your systems. We maintained them. We knew this day might come." On the Vrexian command ship, Commander Vex shouted for someone to cut the transmission. Nothing happened. As of now, Allen continued calmly, "All weapons systems on Council vessels in this fleet have been locked out. The override codes are known only to the human engineers who built failsafes into these systems years ago." Vex's bridge erupted into chaos as officers frantically tried to regain control of their weapons. "We don't want conflict," Allen said. "We simply want to be left alone. I suggest you depart peacefully." On 3 of the 5 Council ships, crews began arguing among themselves. Many had worked with humans for years and held them in high regard. Others questioned the wisdom of attacking civilian settlements. Within 20 minutes, half the Council fleet had mutinied, with crews refusing to follow Commander Vex's orders. The remaining loyal ships, unable to use their weapons and facing internal dissent, had no choice but to retreat. As they jumped away, Allen received a message from the colony below. "Thank you, Admiral," said Governor Paul Davis. Will they be back with more ships? Probably not, Alan replied. News of this will spread quickly through the Council fleet. They'll realize that attacking us directly isn't a viable option. Later that day, Alan sent his report to Earth. In her office at the Defense Ministry, Lisa Martinez read it carefully. She hadn't expected the Council to resort to military action so soon, but she was prepared for it. On her desk sat intelligence reports from across former Council space. Many worlds were facing resource shortages. Political unrest was growing. The once unified Galactic Council was beginning to fracture along old fault lines as member species blamed each other for the declining situation. They're desperate, she murmured to her aide, Frank Taylor. That makes them dangerous. Frank nodded. Should we accelerate the defense program? Lisa thought for a moment, then nodded. Yes, and contact the independent worlds in the Orion sector. I think they'll be more receptive to alliance talks now. As reports of the failed attack spread across Council space, the political damage was immense. The Council's military authority had been publicly undermined, and rumors began to circulate. How many other Council ships had human failsafes built into them? Could any Council military action against humanity succeed? The answer, spreading like wildfire through space, was becoming clear. No, they could not. 3 years had passed since humanity walked away from the Galactic Council. The once mighty Council chambers now hosted heated arguments rather than orderly debates. Today's session was especially tense. We must act decisively, shouted the Nicaran representative, pounding his scaled fist on the table. 3 more systems have declared independence this month alone. High Councilor Zex Terrell looked tired. His blue scales had dulled with stress, and 2 of his 6 eyes were clouded with fatigue. And what would you have us do? He asked wearily. Send more warships. You saw what happened at Horizon. We cannot guarantee control of our own vessels. The Nicaran hissed in frustration. Then we find another way. The humans have much to answer for. Ambassador Lyra of the Alari finally spoke. The humans have done nothing but leave us alone, as they promised. It is not their fault that we built our society on their innovations without understanding them. In a secure meeting room on Earth, Lisa Martinez, now serving her 2nd term as Minister of Defense, laid out evidence for the assembled leaders. Our intelligence network has confirmed that the Phyrexian Empire and 3 other major Council powers are planning a preemptive strike against Earth, she said calmly. They believe if they can hit our homeworld directly, our colonies will surrender. President Dan Harris, a former diplomat with silver hair and steady hands, studied the data. The room remained silent as Earth's leadership absorbed this information. But unlike the panic such news might have caused years ago, the atmosphere was one of calm determination. They seem desperate, observed Vice President Carol Lewis. They are, Lisa confirmed. Their economies continue to decline. Younger races are questioning Council leadership. They're losing control. And their planned attack? Asked President Harris. Lisa brought up a holographic display showing fleet movements, a combined force gathering in secret near the Aldebaran Drift. Based on our projections, they could be ready to strike in 2 months. Harris nodded thoughtfully. And our preparations? Complete, Lisa answered. The defensive systems around Earth and all major colonies are fully operational. The Council has no idea what they'll be facing if they try this. The President stood and walked to the window overlooking New Washington. The city gleamed in the afternoon sun, its streets busy with people going about their lives, unaware of the threat being discussed. We've been preparing for this possibility for decades, haven't we? He asked quietly. Yes, sir, Lisa replied. Even while we were Council members, our long-term security planning accounted for this scenario. The defensive grid was developed and built in secret facilities throughout our years of membership. Harris turned back to face the room. I want to avoid war if possible. Send a message to their fleet commander. Don't threaten. Just inform them that we know their plans and are prepared. And if they attack anyway? Asked Admiral Frank Rogers. Then we show them why picking a fight with humans was their worst mistake, the president said simply. On the frontier world of Top Prime, Council spy Rick Morgan transmitted his final report before preparing to escape back to Council space. His hand shook slightly as he encoded the data. What he had discovered terrified him. The humans had built something on the far side of Top Prime's moon. Something massive. His scans couldn't penetrate its defenses, but its power signature was unlike anything in Council records. And Top Prime wasn't unique. His network had identified similar constructions around every major human world. The scale of preparation was staggering, suggesting years, perhaps decades of secret development. As his small ship broke orbit, Rick wondered if his superiors would believe his report or dismiss it like so many others. He wondered if it even mattered anymore. The Council races had always seen humans as clever but naive newcomers to galactic politics. They had never understood that humans' peaceful nature was a choice, not a weakness. On Earth, Lisa Martinez watched the last light fade from the sky, knowing that somewhere out there, Council warships were gathering. She felt no fear, only a quiet certainty. Humanity had walked away hoping for peace, but they had prepared for war. Now the Council would learn the difference between a species that avoided conflict and one that was simply waiting, ready and watchful, for the conflict to come to them. The unraveling of the Galactic Council was about to accelerate, and there would be no stopping it. The small, unmarked ship landed at the private spaceport outside New Washington with no fanfare. Its single passenger, an Alari male with silver-white hair and ancient eyes, stepped onto Earth's soil for the first time. His name was Naren, a scholar of the oldest living species in the galaxy. A simple car waited to take him to his destination. The driver, a human woman, greeted him with a respectful nod. "Welcome to Earth, Scholar Naren. Dr. Wells is expecting you." The Galactic Council knew nothing of this visit. Naren had taken great care to ensure his journey remained secret. What he carried with him, what he needed to share, was too important for political games. An hour later, Naren sat in the study of Dr. Henry Wells, Earth's chief historian. The room was lined with actual paper books, antiques in this digital age. Outside the windows, birds sang in a garden full of spring flowers. "I appreciate you seeing me without official channels," Naren said, his voice musical in the way of all Alari. Wells, a man with kind eyes, and gray at his temples, poured tea for both of them. "Your message suggested urgency and discretion. That was enough to intrigue me." Naren placed an ancient data crystal on the table between them. "This contains historical records from my people's archives, records we have never shared with the Council." Wells raised his eyebrows but didn't reach for the crystal. "Why bring them to us now?" "Because I fear history is repeating itself," Naren replied. "And I believe humans deserve to know they are not the first." Wells took a sip of his tea, waiting for the Alari to continue. 12,000 years ago, before the Council existed, my people ruled nearly a third of what is now Council space, Naren explained. "We encountered a species much like humans, innovative, adaptable, and hopeful. We did not treat them well." "What happened?" Wells asked quietly. "We dismissed them, regulated them, took their ideas, and gave little in return." Naren's ancient eyes grew distant with memory. "They warned us, as humans warned the Council. Then they simply walked away." Wells leaned forward slightly. "And, within a decade, our empire began to collapse," Naren said simply. "Not through war. The species never attacked us. But the systems they had helped build, the innovations they had shared, all had been designed with planned obsolescence that only they understood. Without them, everything slowly fell apart." Wells nodded, understanding dawning on his face. "You're not the first species to underestimate humans." "No," Naren agreed. "My people nearly perished. Our civilization fell to a shadow of its former self. It took us thousands of years to rebuild, and we never again reached our former heights." The Alari scholar sighed. "Humans don't seek revenge. They simply create alternatives and move on. When they walk away, the void they leave behind becomes catastrophic. Wells was silent for a long moment, then reached for a data pad on his desk. "Would you like to see something, Scholar Naren?" He brought up a map of the galaxy, highlighting systems beyond Council borders. "We've already begun establishing relations with frontier worlds outside Council influence, worlds that the Council never bothered to develop or protect." Naren studied the map with interest. "How many?" 23 so far," Wells replied. "All voluntary associations based on fair trade and mutual defense. No forced membership, no punitive regulations." Naren's expression showed both admiration and sadness. "The Council doesn't know, does it?" "They see only what they expect to see," Wells said. "They believe we're isolated and struggling. Their own narrative blinds them to reality." Later that evening, as Naren prepared to depart, he asked one final question. "If the Council attacks Earth, as some are planning to do, what will happen?" Wells' expression remained calm, but his eyes hardened slightly. "We aren't seeking war, Scholar Naren, but we've prepared for it since the day we first met alien life. The Council has never understood what humans are capable of when truly threatened." Naren nodded slowly. "I will bring this warning to those who will listen. There are some in the Council who understand what is happening." "We would welcome peaceful resolution," Wells said. "But the choice isn't ours anymore. It's theirs." As Naren's ship rose into the evening sky, he thought about the records he had shared and the map he had seen. The pattern was clear. The Council wasn't just losing humanity, it was losing the future. 5 years after humanity walked away, the once mighty Galactic Council chamber stood half empty, where representatives of nearly 200 worlds once gathered. Barely 90 remained. The Grand Chamber, designed to showcase the Council's power and unity, now highlighted its decline. High Councilor Zex Terrell was absent today. His health had deteriorated rapidly in recent months, the stress of watching his legacy crumble taking its toll. In his place, 3 competing factions argued bitterly over diminishing resources and growing problems. "The Cygnus sector needs immediate food aid," demanded the representative from Nox Prime. "Where would you suggest we get it from?" countered another delegate. "The agricultural worlds in that sector have all aligned with the humans." The mention of humans brought a familiar tension to the room. No subject caused more discord among the remaining Council members than how to deal with Earth and its growing influence. On the newly established human diplomatic station, Unity, Ambassador Karen Mitchell prepared for another busy day. At 52, she had spent decades in diplomatic service, but her current role was unlike anything in her career. "The delegation from Proxima II has arrived," Ambassador, her aide, Eric Davis, announced. Karen smiled. "That makes 15. 15 former Council worlds had officially aligned with the Terran Cooperative, the loose alliance of independent planets that had formed around Earth's leadership. Unlike the rigid Council structure, the cooperative operated on principles of fair trade, technological sharing, and mutual defense. "Should I invite them to the main conference?" Eric asked. "Let them rest first," Karen replied. "It's a long journey from Proxima, and we're in no rush. That's the difference between us and the Council. We don't demand, we invite." In a research facility on Mars, Dr. Alan Morris looked over the latest test results with quiet satisfaction. The Council scientists trying to reverse engineer human technology were making the exact mistakes his team had predicted. They're still trying to understand the power distribution system without recognizing the fail-safes, he told his colleague, Dr. Sofia Martinez. Sofia nodded. "Just as we designed it. They're smart enough to copy the surface functionality, but not to understand the underlying principles." Years before humanity's departure from the Council, engineers like Alan and Sophia had embedded clever obsolescence into every piece of technology shared with other species. Not as sabotage, but as insurance, systems that would gradually degrade without specific maintenance that only humans fully understood. How long until complete system failure in their core worlds? Sophia asked. Ellen checked the projections. Another 2 years at most. They've managed some workarounds, but nothing that addresses the fundamental issues. On the frontier world of New Eden, Governor Julia Rice welcomed a group of refugees from Council Space. Their ship, old and barely functional, had carried nearly 300 people seeking a fresh start. "We heard that humans accept anyone willing to work and live peacefully," said their leader, a young Vrexian whose scales were dull from poor nutrition. Julia smiled warmly. "That's true. We have land, resources, and opportunities for everyone." The group looked around in wonder at the thriving colony. New buildings rose in the distance. Fields of crops stretched to the horizon. People of various species worked together without the rigid hierarchies of council worlds. "Is it true what they say?" asked another refugee. "That on human worlds, anyone can start a business. Anyone can invent without restriction." "Yes," Julia answered. "We believe innovation comes from freedom, not control." Back on Earth, President Harris reviewed the latest reports from across the galaxy. The technology gap between human worlds and council space had widened dramatically. While human colonies thrived with new innovations, council worlds struggled with increasingly outdated systems. "The Vrexian Empire has officially split from the council," noted his advisor, John Bennett. "That makes 3 major powers now operating independently." Harris nodded thoughtfully. "And the planned attack against Earth?" "Abandoned," John replied. After Scholar Niren shared his warning, enough council members opposed the plan to force its cancellation. The coalition fell apart after that. The president walked to the window of his office, looking out at the peaceful city below. "We never wanted to destroy them, you know. We just wanted to be treated fairly." "Sometimes walking away is the only leverage you have," John said. "And sometimes," Harris added quietly, "it's the only way to build something better." Across what had once been unified council space, a new order was emerging. Not through conquest or war, but through the simple yet devastating consequence of humans choosing to walk away. A decade had passed since humanity walked away from the Galactic Council. The Council itself was now little more than a hollow shell, its grand chambers echoing with the voices of barely 40 representatives. The Vrexian Empire, once the dominant council power, had finally admitted defeat in its struggle to maintain its former glory. On a neutral space station orbiting the star Proxima Centauri, the aging Zex Terrell waited in a simple meeting room. His once vibrant blue scales had faded to a pale gray. His 6 eyes, formerly sharp and calculating, now appeared tired and clouded. Time had not been kind to the former High Counselor. The door slid open. Jack Harper entered the room, older now but standing just as tall as when he had walked out of the council chambers a decade ago. As Earth's president, he represented not just humanity, but the thriving Terran cooperative that now included over 30 former council worlds. "President Harper," Zex Terrell acknowledged, his voice lacking its former strength. "Thank you for agreeing to meet." Harper took a seat across from him. "I was surprised by your request, Counselor." "Former Counselor," Zex Terrell corrected. "The Council is not what it was." Harper nodded but said nothing. He simply waited, allowing the Vrexian to continue. "Our central worlds are facing ecological collapse," Zex Terrell admitted. "The automated systems that regulated our atmosphere began failing 3 years ago. Our scientists cannot repair them. We need help. Human help," Harper clarified. Yes, the admission clearly pained the proud Vrexian. "We have no one else to turn to." Harper studied the alien's face. 10 years ago, this same individual had laughed at humanity's departure. Now he sat here, humbled by necessity. "You destroyed us without firing a shot," Zex Terrell said bitterly. "A decade of slow collapse. Deliberate and cruel." Harper shook his head. "We didn't destroy you. You did that yourselves. We simply stopped holding up a system that exploited us, and built your own empire in the process," Zex Terrell countered. "Not an empire," Harper corrected. "A cooperative. Every world has equal voice. Every species has equal rights. No one is forced to join, and any can leave. Outside the window, a massive human ship drifted past the station. Its sleek design bore no weapons. It was a scientific vessel, not a warship. In the decades since walking away, humanity had focused on exploration and innovation rather than military might. "Will you help us?" Zex Terrell finally asked, the question clearly difficult for him. Harper looked at a data pad, reviewing information. 3 billion people on your central worlds. Food supplies critical. Medical systems failing. He set the pad down. "Yes, we will help you." Relief washed over the Vrexian's face, but Harper raised a hand. "With conditions, we'll provide humanitarian aid with no political strings attached. But if your people want the full benefits of trade and technological exchange, the Vrexian Empire must reform. No more castes. No more subjugation of your colony worlds. Equal rights for all citizens. Our entire society would need to change," Zex Terrell protested. "Yes," Harper agreed simply. "That's the point." Later that day, Harper spoke with his advisors on a secure channel. Vice President Linda Carter looked concerned. "Are you sure about this, Jack? The Vrexians were our most hostile opponents." Harper nodded. "This was never about revenge, Linda. It was about creating a better system. We can't achieve that by letting billions suffer." Secretary of State Alan Wright smiled. "This is why the cooperative works. We lead by example, not force." On the main Vrexian homeworld, news of the coming human aid spread quickly. In city squares and homes across the planet, people gathered to watch the announcement. Some wept with relief. Others looked uncertain about the future. A young Vrexian journalist named Tella watched the human ships arrive with medical supplies and food. Unlike older Vrexians, she had grown up hearing stories about human worlds where opportunity wasn't limited by birth or species. As she recorded the arrival of the first human aid workers, she wondered if her people were ready for such change. The first human to step off the transport was a doctor named Mia Jones. She carried a simple medical kit and wore no weapons. As she approached the waiting Vrexian officials, she extended her hand in the human gesture of greeting. In that moment, the new galactic order was clear for all to see. Humanity had not conquered through force or dominance. They had simply walked away from a broken system and built something better. And now, they were extending a hand to those who had once dismissed them. The true power of humanity had never been their technology or resources, but their willingness to walk away from toxic relationships and build something better.